Well, hello there. It is great to see you again, and welcome back to another installment of Wealth Insights, strategies for pursuing an amazing life of significance. I am your host and moderator, Ryan Ruff. We have the star of the show, Mr. Mitch Silberman of Silberman Wealth Strategies. He'll be joining us momentarily for another wealth management related discussion. That's what we do here on the show. We're basically tapping into the same strategies, tips, solutions, conversations that Mitch is having with his clients on a regular basis, and we're bringing them to you through this show. Today, we've got a great topic, pulled up. It's something that we've scratched the surface a bit on prior episodes, but we really haven't taken a deep dive into this specific issue. What am I talking about? I'm talking about asset protection. Today's episode really encompassing this idea of building a wall around your wealth. You're going to hear Mitch talk about that in a little bit, and really some of the strategies and solutions that he speaks with his clients about on a regular basis. But before we bring Mitch on, I just kind of want to set the scene a little bit for you. Being wealthy, being successful, being affluent is great in so many ways. But there's always that little bit that it can put a proverbial target on your back for frivolous lawsuits. So asset protection planning can really help you to better safeguard some of that wealth. And with that in mind, we want to talk to Mitch about some different strategies to help safeguard that level of wealth. So that being said, let's go ahead and bring Mitch on to get today's conversation rolling. Mitch, good to see you today. How you doing? Welcome aboard.
Ryan, it's always great to be you and our audience. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy getting together with you. We have some great chats on this show. Today, we're talking asset protection. Mitch, let's zoom out as we typically do for our first question, kind of set that high level overview, if you will. Let's start by talking about this overall concept of asset protection planning. Give us that high level overview. What is it and who needs it?
Ryan, it's a great topic because we all dream of becoming wealthy one day, whether how you define it, millionaire, multimillionaire, billionaire. We all love to be wealthy. And typically I work with people who don't come to me to make them wealthy. I work with those who want to stay wealthy. So if you're doing all the right things, like you probably are, my clients have been, you live below your means, you save for the future, you plan, you do all the right things. That's what I call being on offense. And that's great. But you also have to be on defense. We talk about what if there's a huge market correction? What about protecting all you've worked so hard for? What about having your assets taken unjustly away from you? So there are things that you can do. Again, the SEC and FINRA won't allow me to invent strategies. I'm not allowed to do that, which is great. The strategies exist. The ultra wealthy use them. And part of my mission is to find out what the ultra wealthy have been doing for all these decades and make that available to my clients. So it's not just what you earn, it's also what you keep. And it's very, very important to be very strategic about offense and defense.
Sure. So Mitch, if I'm going to kind of boil it down a little bit here, would you say that maybe asset protection is kind of a little bit about sending out this message, maybe that unfounded lawsuits would likely fail, if somebody was to pursue legal action to come after your assets in some way, shape, or form? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, and I love analogies. So I would pick your favorite athlete of all time. If they're a star athlete, they're probably worth millions and millions of dollars, and that's great. I'm a capitalist, so I love that. But I have to believe that most of these athletes are brilliant at their sport, but they may not understand asset protection or legal protection or even wealth accumulation. So they surround themselves with teammates, right? Not on the field, but in their lives, and say, hey, look, I'm making lots of money. How do I grow it? How do I protect it? How do I keep it? How do I mitigate taxes? How do I give it away to charity? So you have to have a team. So I am not an expert in asset protection. I don't do property and casualty, nor do I ever want to. But I know some great firms that do this. So when I work with a client, I will say to them, congratulations. I know you may not feel like it because most of the clients I work with are very humble, but you are a millionaire, and we're going to continue to grow and preserve your assets. But we have to talk to other people to make sure that you protect it. That includes attorneys, that could include property and casualty professionals. So the important part is to collaborate with other key professionals. Let's say you've made it, you're here. I know you want to keep going, but let's put this fortress around your wealth. And there's so many different ways to do that.
So Mitch, in that idea of a fortress around your wealth, let me ask you this. Do you find that most successful people, prospective clients that, maybe you're going through the process of bringing into the fold at Silberman Wealth Strategies, or just anybody, that you speak with on a regular basis, a successful individual, do you find that those people recognize the need for asset protection in the first place and that they are taking the proper steps to build that wall around the wealth? Or do you find that this is, maybe it's not done, it's partially done or partially thought of? What do you see on this front?
I would love to tell you they all have it in order, but typically that is not the case, and that's okay. There's nothing to feel bad about. What I find is that whether you're a physician, or you're a mechanic, or you're a plumber, or you're an actor, or a producer, whatever it is, you're brilliant at that, and that's fantastic. That's how you became wealthy. But they don't really know all the strategies that are available. So I look at it this way. I try to. It was once shared with me that if you have a great idea and you can explain it to a fifth grader, that's great. So the whole goal is not to impress someone with how much I know or they know. As you say, I have no idea what they're talking about. The whole idea is for that person, the client, to say, hey, that makes sense. So I would say to somebody, look, you've done well. Do you have insurance on your car? Of course I do. Do you have insurance on your house? Oh yeah, of course. Well, let's talk about putting insurance maybe on your portfolio, putting insurance or building a fortress around all of your assets. And maybe what they have in place is not right. And maybe it was great 5 or 10 or 20 years ago, but it doesn't apply anymore. Maybe their net worth has expanded, or maybe the laws have changed. So my point is, it's a stress test to say, look, you've done well, you've arrived, this is great. But now that we're working together, there's so much more to helping you live an amazing life of significance than just, hey, your portfolio is up, right? So that's when we bring in the team and say, do you have the right insurance? Has your attorney updated your estate planning? Do you have other protections in place that really will protect you against unjustly having assets taken away from you? It's crucial. This kind of review is crucial, especially at the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely, Mitch. And let me ask you this. Would you say, I guess the most difficult part of that conversation is recognizing the need for it to be done? There's a jumping off point. There's a start to this process of asset protection planning. How would you say that successful people should start this process of getting asset protection strategies in place? Where do you begin? Because I'm sure there's a lot that goes into all this.
Well, the few clients that I work with, I do on purpose work with a limited number of clients as their personal CFO. So I know I take personal responsibility. In fact, let me throw it back on you. Let's pretend that you, Ryan, you came to me with many millions of dollars, and I put together a written financial roadmap and a great financial plan, and you were thrilled and I'm thrilled. And then one day a terrible thing happens, whether you get in a frivolous lawsuit, you name it, something terrible happens. And I could say, well, Ryan, that's not my job. Do you still want to work with me? I wouldn't.
Mitch, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that is my job. Okay, my job is to say, Ryan, you came to me for advice and guidance. Okay, I'm not an expert in estate planning. I'm not an expert in property and casualty. But you know what? I'm an expert in helping you accumulate and preserve your wealth.
Roger that, Mitch. And one thing that we talk about a lot on this show is working with that right team of professionals. When it comes to certain specific niches of wealth management as a whole. Talk to me about the importance of that, utilizing that network when it comes to asset protection. Obviously we've talked about, growing your estate. We've talked about, investment strategies. We've talked about different forms of insurance. Well, this is a bit of a form of insurance in asset protection. Talk to me about how that network of professionals comes into play with asset protection.
Right. And if you think about it, most people understand, at least at some level, they understand insurance. Right. And I joke with my clients, imagine your 22-year-old son says, Mom, Dad, I'm getting married. Right. And you say, that's great. And then they get married. And then the husband says, should I have life insurance? And you probably say, well, yeah, you should. And you go, well, I don't really know how it works. How does it work? You say, well, you're a young, healthy 22-year-old. You can maybe buy, I'm going to make up numbers, Ryan, just for example, you can buy a $500,000 policy for $2,000 a year. Now, we as adults go, okay, but if you're young, you go, wait a minute. How is that possible? You're telling me I'm going to pay them $2,000, but if I die, they're going to pay my wife $500,000. How can they afford to do that? It's a legitimate question because there's the law of large numbers. There's actuarial tables. They take in premiums. Not everyone has a claim at the same time. So we all understand that. But that same concept needs to be applied to around, we keep saying, the financial fortress. So when I work with someone new, I always ask, I'd like to see the last 2 years of tax returns, and I'd like to see your estate planning documents. I'm no longer a CPA. I'm a happily recovering CPA. So why would I ask for that? I want to make sure you have a great CPA who knows what they're doing. I want to make sure your estate planning documents are there and updated. And if they're not, that's a discussion. Hey, when is the last time you had your estate planning updated? Do you like your CPA? Someone has to be the financial quarterback. Someone has to be the personal CFO. I love to do that role. It doesn't have to be me, but there has to be somebody that understands the totality of a client's life, not just, in your own silos. There's some great professionals out there, Ryan, that are in their own silos. I'm great at investments. I'm great at insurance. I'm great at estate planning. I'm great at taxes. That's wonderful. But we have to work together on behalf of the client because they all fit together.
No, completely. I completely agree with you. And Mitch, we're talking about a lot of the strategies and thought processes that people need to be considering when they're trying to build that wall around their wealth. Let's talk about maybe some of the mistakes. Do you see, maybe a new client comes into you and you're looking at their portfolio? Do you find that there are any key mistakes or frequent mistakes that people make when it comes to asset protection as a whole?
Yeah, there's two that I see more frequently than others, Ryan. One is, hey, have you done your estate planning? Yes, we have. And just so you know, estate planning for me, four primary parts are the will, trust, durable power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. Those are the four key things. Okay. And they say, yep, we got that done. We're so excited. And then I always say, did you fund the trust? And they say, what does that mean? So if you paid an attorney to do all these documents, and I'm not blaming on the attorney at all, but you didn't move certain assets of yours, like your home or your checking account or your savings account, or maybe some of your investments, it shouldn't be owned by you anymore. It needs to be owned by the trust now that's been set up. That's a biggie we see a lot of. On the property and casualty side, what I'll see is, do you have coverage on your home, your auto, your health, your life, all that? Usually the answer is yes. Is it the right amount of coverage? Is it proper coverage? Is it set up properly? Is everything covered the way you think it is? And they say, gee, I don't know. So that's why we'll do a stress test and make sure, hey, I would love to tell a client you have everything in order. You can sleep better at night now. But that's not what we usually find. What we usually find is, yeah, we found some holes that need correcting. And you want to do that before the disaster strikes. Think about when you go on a cruise, they do this thing called a muster, where you have to put on the life jackets. Well, they do that while they're still in port, right? They don't wait until the middle of the sea to practice. They practice while you're in port so that if something bad happens, you kind of know what to do. So we want to find out ahead of time, get ahead of any potential danger to protect you and your loved ones.
Mitch, we've thrown a handful of considerations at our audience today when it comes to asset protection as a whole. I think it would be beneficial probably for our audience if we could one final time have you bottom line for us why somebody needs to be considering asset protection, especially, the significant wealth generators, the affluent families and business owners. Bottom line it for us with asset protection.
It really comes down to this. You've worked so hard for your money. You want to make your money work hard for you, but you want to protect it. Again, imagine you build all this wealth, and something terrible happens and you go back down. It didn't have to happen that way. And so really, you want to work with a caring team of individuals that puts you first. That's very client-centric, to make sure you've made sacrifices, you've taken risks, you think you've done all the right things. Let's just make sure you really have. And plus, there's so many new things that are available that weren't available before, best practices, ideas and strategies to really protect. And what you're really doing is, are you willing to pay a little extra to take the risk from your balance sheet to someone else's balance sheet? And that's what you want to do. You want to keep accumulating wealth in an intelligent way and avoid common costly mistakes.
Roger that. Mitch, if anybody out there in our audience today, maybe this conversation is really resonating with them and they're interested in just chatting with you and maybe your team over at Silberman Wealth Strategies, just to get a little more granular with their specific financial portfolio, to talk about asset protection as a whole, what would you say is the best way they could get in touch with you and your team to just maybe start that conversation?
Always start with the website, www.silbermanwealth.com, and it's B as in billion. and have a look at what we do. It talks about our 5-step personal CFO process. Our step 1 is a discovery meeting. Just so you know, to put your mind at ease, I made a business decision many, many years ago to not charge someone to see if I can help you. So the discovery meeting to see if there's a good fit is complimentary. I just couldn't live with the fact of saying, well, I can't help you, but here's my bill. So, go to the website, set up a time for us to chat, explore if we're a good fit for each other. And the whole idea is to add value to your life, whether or not we work together.
Alrighty, awesome, Mitch. Well, hey, look, we appreciate you carving some time out of your busy day to be with us here on the show today to talk asset protection as a whole. And I'm looking forward to getting together with you again for another episode here soon.
As always, me too.
Alrighty, thanks, Mitch. And hey, look, we want to take one final moment, as always, to thank you guys, our audience, for jumping aboard and being with us on today's show. If you liked what you saw, you liked what you heard, maybe you took something away from today's conversation, do us a favor, comment on the show, subscribe to it on whichever platform that you're checking us out on today, and then, of course, share this information. That's what it's all about. Share it with friends, family, business owners, anybody that you think would benefit from these types of conversations. At the end of the day, these are the strategies for pursuing an amazing life of significance. They're the same conversations that Mitch is having with his clients on a regular basis over at Silberman Wealth Strategies. We have some great conversations still teed up for you in some future episodes. We'd hate to have you miss out on any of those. So be sure to always check back to the Silberman Wealth Strategies Facebook page and then, of course, their website for updates on the latest and greatest conversations that we're having here on this show. So for Mitch Silberman, I'm Ryan Ruff. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate you being with us on today's installment of Wealth Insights.